right. I'm going to do this inside because it's sweltering hot outside. I got most of my chores done that I can do. And I figure if I got time to sit down, I got time to sit here and get voices heard and knowledge shared. So, it's a little more comfortable in here. I got a microphone going. You might hear the air conditioner in the background a little bit, maybe. That's about it. Now, yesterday's video I mentioned the Smithsonian Institute. I'm going to remind everyone again that if you are someone who used to work there, or you know somebody who did or does, or maybe even you're somebody who's a disgruntled past employee that got shit canned for some unfair reason, and you know that possibly this institution is quite corrupt, and they have possibly withheld very important information from the people that they have no right in holding back. So, if that's the case, please email us what you know at sharemystory@howtohunt.com. That'd be very, very appreciated, all right? Just do it. Don't be scared. Just do it. Now, gonna get some voices heard. I got one of the shittens is attacking me right here. You might hear that thing, but anyway, let's get on to some voices. This is titled, Well, That Scared Me. I better mark this as red right now. Hi, Steve. Thanks for all you've been doing with this channel for the people, and thanks to all the people coming here to share their experiences. Just call me Ron, please. I came from a long line of lumberjacks and miners. As a result, I've heard many stories about sightings and generally weird things in the forest and even underground. Things that aren't easily explained. Camping and fishing trips with my grandfather into the Temagami region, old growth forest area in Ontario, or into New Brunswick and northern BC. When I was younger, were very eye-opening. But those stories from him would be for another time. I personally don't have a sighting. I certainly don't think my story qualifies me as a member of the club, especially in comparison to events which have happened to others. Just something I can't logically explain, but it scared the crap out of both my friend and I, so I'll tell it anyway. I'm reasonably sure that it was, although I technically didn't see anything. My friend has the same opinion. Life drifted us apart for about 20 years, but some of the first conversations once we got back together, after family and kids, was this night. At the time, we were finally able to admit to each other just how scared we were. Back at the age of 16, a friend and I were out being stupid teen boys on back roads in a crappy old 76 Pontiac Catalina. At about 3 or 4 a.m., we'd been out for a couple hours already. The only thing we'd seen so far had been some deer crossing the roads or jumping fences through and around the various fields. The tunes were cranked, and we were generally being loud and obnoxious, thinking we were cool while trying to find roads to explore. Young and dumb, yes, but they were good times. Anyway, we eventually come across a rural intersection, and I slowly went through it. While getting back up to speed, my friend turns to me and says, over the stereo, "Did you see that?" in kind of a panicky voice. He looked spooked. "No. What was it?" I replied. Looked like red eyes peeking around a tree, and maybe a big hand, I don't know. Maybe it was just the bark, but it was higher than a man. He tells me, as he's finishing that sentence, I hear over the music that's playing loudly a sound I've never heard before. I've never heard since, and honestly, I never want to hear it again. It scared me so much. I may have peed a little. Maybe. Can't admit that. Rule number 1, when you're scared, never let them see you pee yourself. It was loud and it was close. It sounded big, angry, mean, and annoyed. It was sort of like a growl, a prolonged huff, and a grunt, but much more than all that. The lungs had to be the size of the trunk of a car. I can't describe the sound, just, nope, it was time to get the F out of there. So we ended up doing seemingly 95 miles per hour on the straight parts of an unfamiliar twisty gravel road. I'm lucky we didn't crash and die. My skin felt like it was crawling. Yet time felt like it had slowed down, while my heart felt like it was pumping faster than the engine was revving. All my senses seemed out of whack. My friend refused to look behind us to see if anything was there, and I was too scared to look in any of the rearview mirrors. I kept imagining this thing crawling up the rear bumper and trunk lid. I was scared. Out of my mind scared. If the back window would have popped, I would have died right there and then from my heart exploding. I was that scared. So we kept going. I was shaking so much I couldn't have lifted off the throttle anyway. Came to a T in the intersection a few miles down the road, and that was a surprise. No freaking way I could stop, nor did I want to, but I was going to try. Well, that didn't work. We're going to spin out and die if I try that again. And by the way, oh my God, corn cobs are freaking loud when you hit them at speed. It's amazing how much damage they do. So now I'm much older, though my daughter questions if I'm actually wiser. In May of 21, I had a freaking stroke. It's my own fault for treating my body like a garbage can. It's not all bad, though. I didn't die. So I'm calling that a win. Lost my balance and coordination, but I still have my marbles. Even if it feels like I've been slowly putting them all back into the bag one at a time. Learning how to walk again sucks, but it's coming along. I did it as a baby, I could do it again. Still can't do a sexy dance, although, to be honest, I never could do that before I had the stroke either. The next part of things is in regards to what people call the woods, the forest, or the bush. I've always loved being in the woods, no matter which country I've happened to have been in due to my work. Canada, US, Japan, China, India, Russia, Germany, Indonesia, Peru, Brazil, and others. Some of these were in the vein of holy crap remote. And weird stuff happens in these places too. I've got stories about some of those as well, but those would be for another time. Nature's always dreaming up crazy ways to kill you if you aren't paying attention. Sure, most of my trips have been work-related, but for me, being in the bush is always the best part of anything. I think I like being in the remote north the best. When I go north, it's just a, I'm home kind of feeling. Rifle rod or camera, it's just good to be out there. There are small bits of woods near my home, parks really, with paths that people can walk through. I can honestly say that stumbling along those paths with my walker has been better for me than trying the same in town. I believe there's just something special about the forest. In town, everything is flat, straight, 90 degrees, and repetitive. I feel like my brain gets bored very fast, that there's no challenge. Not so in the forest. I believe it makes my brain work harder, remaking the connections that I lost in the stroke and the order to process and adapt. I end up sleeping better and longer after a trip through the forest, and I've noticed more improvement in the days after those trips when compared to walks in the town. I feel that just being in the woods helps me. To me, it feels like peace and healing. It's not proof of anything, though. I know that. Just one data point from a guy with a stroke, which literally means that a part of my brain died. My daughter likes to tease me and say that it technically makes me brain dead, and maybe even a zombie. I usually tell her not to get too carried away with that kind of talk, or I'll bite her if she gets out of line. We laugh and she hugs me. Anyway, I encourage all of you to take what I'm saying for whatever you think is, or whatever you think it's worth. I'm pretty sure you never give up the woods, Steve. But for all the rest of the club members and the listeners out there, I'd suggest you try to do your best to not give it up either. Don't let these events keep you out of the woods. They're for you too. If you feel like doing smaller steps to get back into it, that's okay. If you feel pressured to leave, come back another day. No shame. It's not whether you get knocked down, it's that you get back up. The woods are so much more than just a place to go. There's something healing about being in the bush, at least for me, and I hope for all of you too. Once again, me thanks to you and those club members for sharing their experiences. Ron. Here's a little note at the bottom. If the thought of something makes me giggle for more than 15 seconds, should I just assume I'm not allowed to do it? Yeah, who knows these days, right? Hey, Ron, thanks for that email, man. Thanks for that email. You know what it was. And there's actually a real popular photo from Ontario where you mentioned broad daylight, great big thing standing by a root ball, I believe, a big log stump root ball thing, blown down tree. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. I'm sure half the people are going to say it's a hoax, and the other half are going to say it's real. Either way, it doesn't really matter, does it? Anyway, good luck to you out there, man. Good luck healing up. Don't quit. Do not quit. Do never give up. Here's another one. No title on this email. Hi, your YouTube series is very interesting, and after watching it for a few months, and based off my personal experiences, I think it's probably legitimate. I'm not a hunter, although I've gone hunting with my dad back in the day, so I really don't know you from your other channel. Professional guide? I just stumbled across your YouTube channel about Bigfoot while watching History Channel and other random things on YouTube. I feel a little ridiculous because I'm hesitant to believe you are legitimate, because like I said, I haven't heard about you or seen you in anything except this channel. I don't know, maybe this is a big joke that I'm being sucked into. Still, the content is compelling. I personally had a couple experiences that I thought were innocent and natural until listening to you read about other people's experiences and recognizing the similarities between theirs and mine. My question to you is this. What does it feel like to be watched by a predator, like a big cat or a dangerous animal, even human? I've always assured my experiences were just that, big cat, bear, human, because I grew up in a city before moving to the boondocks, literally 20 plus miles from the nearest town, and I had/still have no bushcraft. I'm not aware, just unclear, if I was being stalked by a person, a big cat, a bear, or a Bigfoot. It's happened on multiple occasions, but only once in a U.S. national forest. I've always assumed Bigfoot lived far away from me, but now I think I might be wrong, so I'm rethinking previous experiences. Anyway, thanks for providing thought-provoking information. Please do not use my name if you choose to use this email, and thank you. All right. This is my take on what you have to say. What do we got? I'm getting mauled by a cat here. Am I legitimate? What? That's up for you to decide. You're gonna have to go with your gut instincts on that. You can Google my name, Steve Isdall, if you want. You probably find something on me. But anyway, I can't. All right, I had one time when I was younger. I was sneaking through this tight, thick bush in Vancouver Island with my bow and arrow on what was used as a horse riding trail, and I knew I was after a very large buck in there. I've been sneaking through there numerous times to try to get him in his sleeping area, and this one time I was walking along, and all of a sudden I just knew that I was being looked at from my right. I looked to my right, and there he was laying there, staring at me, and I got him. But anyways, it wasn't an alarming feeling at all. I didn't feel like I was being stared at. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I just knew. All of a sudden I was like, uh-oh. And I looked to my right, and there he was. But I didn't have adrenaline. I didn't have hair standing on end. I wasn't freaked out. I have ran into basically every natural predator you can rattle off that inhabits British Columbia. I ran into it. I have had a black bear stalking me with intent to kill me and eat me. Did that feel any different? It felt threatening for sure, but I can't say I felt it staring at me, although it was locked on me, stalking me like a cat would a mouse. I've had a deranged grizzly bear follow me on my horse with my hunter from camp up the side of a mountain late in the early afternoon, sat and waited around me somewhere while I was on a little bit of a clearing, 100-yard hike downhill from the horses, and I was sitting there glassing using binoculars to stare at the next mountain over. And we sat there for probably 2 hours, and that grizzly bear was around us, and he knew we were there, and I did not feel anything. And I hiked back up to our horses, got on the horses, we started riding down. That's when I saw his tracks on top of my tracks coming up the mountain. And then after taking off our saddles and rigging off the horses, cutting them loose with the hobbles on, that grizzly bear came around the cabin and tried to get me off the porch. Did I feel him staring at me or following me? Not at all. Didn't feel anything. So, what else? Big cats. I have had a big cat so close I was kicking snow at it when I was a teenager. I didn't feel any different with it locked on us. What else? I have seen a lot of big cats. I've seen a lot of grizzly bears. I've had every grizzly encounter you can come up with. I've had it. And what I'm saying is I'm trying to rack my brain to see if I can describe to you what it is like to be stared at. And I cannot tell you. But I can tell you that something out there gives pressure to me and makes me feel uncomfortable. Like I probably shouldn't be going in this particular side of a mountain today. I shouldn't be going farther up a mountain at all. And I felt that. I've definitely felt something looking at me while reading these emails in various places. I've had things thrown at me. So to answer this quickly, I believe what is making you feel like that isn't a wild animal. And that's my take on it. And I have a funny feeling you know that as well because you're emailing me, asking me on this channel. So there you go. Keep us posted with what you may come across in the future. And be safe. Follow your instincts. Follow your gut instincts. They're usually right. Now, what else we got? I hope you guys are enjoying all the B-roll I've got on here, which is video clips of places I've been where my soul truly belongs. And that's these places I've been showing you are places I will be going to soon. And yes, I filmed every square inch of it. Now listen. Let's listen to this. Hey Steve, I'll just jump right into the story here. I'm a 28-year-old man born and raised in a small town in Minnesota. My family owns a bait shop. We sell leeches, suckers, shiners, flathead minnows, worms, and so on. To catch these baits, we set up sloughs and ponds all over the Minnesota country, which is where my story begins. So one day, my father asked me to join him trapping leeches in the deep northern Minnesota woods up towards Itasca State Park. Itasca State Park. We would travel in by four-wheeler. We had our own four-wheeler and our own canoes. There was this certain spot where we traveled at least 8 miles into the woods from where the crow flies. But in all reality, it was probably more like 12 miles into the brush. Normally, we wouldn't travel that far, but these sloughs were big and produced a lot of bait, which in turn brought in a lot of money. Anyways, every time I would go into my slough, which was a few miles away from the slough my dad was doing, I had this sense of being watched to the point where I would stay as far away from the shoreline as I could because it felt like whatever was watching was waiting for the moment to strike. I have goosebumps even thinking about it. Anyways, I always kept this to myself because I didn't want to sound crazy. Well, one day my dad and I drove the four-wheelers a little further into the bush, into the middle of the woods, where you wouldn't imagine a person ever going there, was a 17-foot canoe that was last licensed like 5 years prior to when we had found it. We did some research to find out the man who owned it passed away, so we went back to drag it out of the brush. That same day, my dad's friend, who showed us the area to begin with, told us a story about he was out in those same woods while deer hunting, and he had found a giant human footprint. But obviously, from the size, you know it was not human. Now, given my experience with feeling watched, I was a little nervous, but it didn't stop me from working. Well, one day my dad asked me to go up again with him to go trapping, but I was busy that day and couldn't, so he went up alone, even though I asked him not to. But he is fearless, like you, and doesn't let things scare him. To be honest, I've never seen him frightened in my entire life. We are talking about a man who makes his living trapping live bait and also trapping animals of all kinds. He's a big burly man and, like I said, is fearless. Well, that day when he was up there in the same area, we found the canoe. He was walking along looking for other places to trap when all of a sudden he got the same feeling I had of being watched. And he said he was overcome with fear. So he pulled out his .357 Magnum that he always carried with him in the woods. As soon as he did that, he heard what sounded like a giant rushing through the woods toward him. He watched big trees being knocked down, and this thing was coming straight at him. My dad at first stood his ground, but when he saw a huge tree come crashing down, he started running. As he was running, he tripped and fell, and when he fell, he aimed the gun toward whatever this thing was, and right when it hit the bushes next to him, it just stopped. My dad was saying out loud, "Come on, MF, show yourself." But nothing more happened. He didn't see any giant, didn't see anything other than huge trees crashing down in his direction. Now, like I said, my dad is not the type of person to get scared, especially in the woods. Like, that's like his second home. But telling this story, even he shakes and gets goosebumps. Now, if that wasn't weird enough, the other day I was telling him about you and Dave Pilatus, and telling him so many others have similar stories, to which he replied, years ago I would never have believed in any of this, but after that experience I do believe it. We literally, the same day we were talking about that at night, he gets a call from a Native American man from up north where we found that canoe in the woods, and the gentleman told us he had found one of our canoes in those same woods. Now, we did leave a canoe up there, but we left it where no human would ever go because we didn't want it getting stolen. So for him to find that canoe, let alone on the very same day my father and I were talking about wanting to go back up there together to get the canoe, we had a reason to go back to those woods to see if maybe we could have another experience, and that man calls us on the exact same day. It's just not normal. But my father and I believe that there is more to this. We don't know what to think, though, because that canoe has been there for a good 7 years now without anyone ever finding it. But the same day we speak about wanting to go back, a Native American man calls us and tells us he has found our canoe, and that it was way deep in the woods where only someone who stole the canoe would put it. But we explained to him it wasn't stolen, but that we put it there so no one would find it. And we hid it under brush and stuff, so it was hidden good. It's all just so unreal. Wondering if anyone has any insight on this. Wondering if anyone has any insight on this. Like, is this a way for whatever these things are to communicate with us, telling us it's okay to come back? Or is it a way for them to tell us we aren't welcome? Come and get your stuff. I feel crazy even asking this, but I'm seriously in awe. Nothing like this has ever happened to either of us, and I'm too smart to know this wasn't a coincidence. All right, well, that's quite the question. Maybe somebody will answer it in the comment section below this video. I don't know. Do I think they want you to come and get your stuff? I haven't a clue. All I know for 100% for sure is if they wanted your ass dead, you wouldn't be typing us right now. That's a fact. So going by that, I go back. Go back, use your instincts, and make all your decisions with them the second you get out of your vehicle, all right? That's all I can say. And report back to us if you do go. And good luck out there, man. Thanks for sending that in. What do we got here is another one titled Being Marked. Hi, Steve. I'll make this quick as possible. You're a very busy guy, and there's so many other people with the stories to tell. My question or thought is regarding being marked by Sabe. In past videos, it was mentioned that the Sabe marks certain people, and that they kind of follow us no matter where we go. Therefore, we have ongoing experiences with the Sabe, regardless of the extent of the experiences an individual may have with the Sabe. I wonder if, as time passes, that the marked people will be the first to be enlightened. Will they be the first to have things revealed to them, possibly by the Sabe themselves, and that other people will not learn of until later time? Do the Sabe choose their marked people because there is something about them the Sabe feel they can trust, so to speak? If I remember correctly, in the past videos, it was mentioned that people are marked for different reasons, some of them being our energy and our spiritual state. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me. That is one of my and my family's attributes. We are a very spiritual family. We are very much in tune with ourselves, nature, and the spiritual realm. Myself and some of my family members have had multiple experiences with what we are certain were Sabe related. The experiences range from feelings to audio sounds to prints and to visuals. Personally, I have not actually seen one, but they have left their obvious evidence that they were on my property or very near it. They have also followed me from one residence to the move of another residence 15 minutes away. Not that it really matters to anyone but myself, but I do have pictures and scale measurements of tracks from both residences I lived at, as well as other family members' properties. My experiences started in 2013 and continue to this day. One thing I've noticed in my experience is that the Sabe seem to be getting braver and bolder about letting me know they're around. Activities more often and more obvious. I've shared some of these with Scott Carpenter. There's a lot more I could say, but certainly don't want to bore you or others with it. Just wanted to throw out the idea of marked people and see what you and or others thought. Thank you for your time, Steve. I'm so glad I came across your channel a few years ago. I don't miss any of them. God bless. Feel free to share my name. I have nothing to hide. If you have any questions of me, feel free to ask. Tava Ridenauer. P.S. I know my name is a doozy. LOL. No worries if you screw it up. Everybody does. LOL. Yeah, okay, no problem. I screw up a lot of words. A lot of people screw up my last name too. It's a doozy. But no harm. No harm taken, no harm done. It's a good question. See if somebody will answer it in the comment section below. I'm definitely not the expert on being tagged. I might be tagged in a way, but they don't really give me any in my face things too often. They don't try to scare me too bad. Now, there's another one. This is titled Sasquatch Connections. Hi, Steve. What you're doing rings true to me, and you're absolutely correct. We've all been fed bullshit our entire lives. Hold on, it's got to rub my eye. Holy cow, it's an itchy eyeball. All right, there we go. I've come to realize that humans are afraid of truth and go to ridiculous lengths to evade and deny it. It's way past time to deal with it. Remember John Green's book, On the Track of Sasquatch, with the picture from Roger Patterson's foot on the cover? I read it when it first came out back in the late 70s, early 80s. I remember reading about some Sasquatch encounters in the Orchard County country on the outskirts of Yakima, Washington, back in the 60s, I believe. The area butts right up against the foothills and canyons leading to Mount St. Helens and the Cascades. A few years later, my girlfriend and I visited her aunt and cousins out there. It was the same area Green mentioned in his book. One night as we sat in Aunt Imogene's ramshackled farmhouse, the accounts from John Green's book began to flow from various family members' mouths as they recounted their sightings and encounters with the big hairy man. I began to feel shivers run down my spine because I knew damn well none of those people ever read that book. They were the two young cousins who fled for their lives from the apple orchard, pursued by what had to have been a Sasquatch. One of them shit his pants. With wide eyes, Imogene and one of the older nieces took told of a large, hairy, man-like creature that sat by a big old tree, just visible at the edge of the feeble porch light in what passed for the front yard. It sat there more than once until early morning and then disappeared into the sparsely populated countryside. There were no men in the house at the time, the niece added, with a look of awe that she had once seen a huge hairy face looking in the kitchen window after dark. Then there was Grandma up the highway a ways who complained that there was two big black men fighting over the produce in her vegetable garden at night. And finally were the two young occupants of the car on the dark, lonely highway that ran past Imogene's dirt driveway. If I remember right, there was just a fleeting mention of this in Green's book, and the wide-eyed kinfolk told the same story. The car broke down or ran out of gas on the highway at night. I believe it was a young man and his girlfriend. The man got out to go for gas or help or whatever. No cell phones then. Right after he got out of the car, the girl heard a yell. Then something heavy began to hit the car. Someone found her there the next morning, terrified, huddled on the floor of the car. Her boyfriend's broken body was on the hood. I always questioned that last account. It sounds too much like something out of a horror movie. I hope it's not true. I always thought this was an interesting connection, synchronicity, whatever. If I'm any judge at all, those people weren't lying. They saw those things, and I'm guessing what they saw were Sasquatches. Thanks for what you do, man. All right. Was I allowed to use your name? I don't remember. I don't think so. Okay, whatever. I'll leave your name out just in case. I seem to get in shit now and then for screwing up. That's interesting. The broken body on the hood of the car. I don't know. That sounds like it could be a story, but I wasn't there. But when Dave Politis, who's investigated this topic inside and out, keeps saying he never once came across a researcher or anyone being directly harmed or gone missing from one of these beings in all of his time researching. So go figure, right? I don't know. Somebody might know. I have to find out the exact names of the people in that car and see if you can track down the relatives or something, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Here's another one. My dad and I were always together while I was growing up. He was a God-fearing man. The only habit he had was Copenhagen. He didn't talk filthy, he didn't womanize, and he never drank alcohol. That is how we were raised, like good old country folks. My dad was a Bigfoot believer, though, and I don't know if he ever had an experience because he never talked about it much. As a child, there were certain places we could not go to and certain rivers we could not cross. We knew better. We would get an ass whooping back in those days, lol, so this has led me into a lifelong hunt for Bigfoot. Steve, I was raised in the woods. We lived in the country with nobody around. I had older siblings, and together we roamed thousands of acres all times of the day and night. I think we just knew what to do and knew what not to do. We ignored what we thought we saw and just kept playing. Maybe it was that we just didn't want to comprehend what we saw. We didn't mess with them, and they didn't mess with us. I spent the night with a friend who lived about 2 miles from us, basically up the river. We heard howls quite often, and my grandfather would mimic it and would call back to it. We could tell the howls were getting louder and closer very quickly. This thing was moving up the river towards us. I was about 10 years old at the time. We were told we'd better not go over to the swamp looking for that thing, and we didn't. At this point, we were too scared to go looking for it. This started an obsession for me from a very early age. I was going to become, let's just say, a woodsman. I've stayed in the woods, and my job has been the woods. I was a paid big and small game guide for about 10 years. I loved it at first, seeing all the animals in their natural habitat, watching, learning, and tracking. 2 years ago, I was in the North Georgia mountains turkey hunting. Steve, I'd walked for a day before I ever started hunting, and it had snowed the night before. The woods were quiet. I blew my turkey call a couple times and just sat looking down the mountain listening. I started paying attention to the fact that there was no noise at all, no birds, nothing, no kind of sounds, period. I got this feeling that I was being told to leave, and that I needed to leave quickly. So I left immediately, and thank God I was out by dark. I had a cell phone, a GoPro, and a gun, but this thing was speaking to me. I had no thoughts of that stuff. All I was thinking was to get out of there. A wild hog hunt. We have caught and tied wild hogs. I have coon hunted all over the U.S. I've never been scared to be in the woods alone, ever. Since this time, it has taken me some time to get back to the woods, and I took my wife this time and a gun. I got nothing this time. I said out loud that we were not there to bother with it, and that I didn't want to see it. I just wanted to come back to the same place in order to be able to move on. I couldn't take not being in the woods anymore. Steve, I have more to share, but I must be careful. This is no BS, it's all truth. After listening to you for the last couple of days, I feel that me and you are about in the same place with this thing. All right. You're right, you got to keep going and speak out loud to them for sure. That's what I do, man. And, obviously, you see what I still do. You see where I go. And I'm still here, right? For the most part. Who knows? Maybe eventually something's gonna happen to me playing this day on video, and something's gonna grab me and take me, and somebody will find the camera, and it'll all be put to rest. Really? You imagine? Right? Anyway, keep going back out. Here I go. I got to get another one out here, and then I got to run for a bit here. This is titled "Feeling Sick." I toss and turn, wondering if I'm in danger or not each time I go out. You're good friends with David Plius, and he states he isn't aware of any of these beings harming a human. You just shared about the nausea feeling passing by your encounter area. Natives speak of abduction and cannibalism. Which side of the fence should I be on? I know these beings have watched me, and I just cast prints that were 11 inches and had a step of 65 inches, not human. Do I pack a 58E or 2 or not? There are plenty of these beings, and they are doing well as of 2022, even with drought and fires. I want a sighting, but no casualties on either side. You have a great channel, thanks. All right, man. What can I say to that? I don't know. Listen to what Dave said to that. The missing person thing, Dave is what should be considered an authority on that topic right now. And I believe he may have some really good solid clues as to what we should be nervous about, where we should look. Maybe, I don't know. You have to contact him and ask him for that information. I do know that possibly a lot of us should be looking up if we feel threatened in any way when we're outside. That's one thing I do know. And possibly, I don't know. I mean, there's far, far, far too many people reporting of unknown beings entering homes, and then you receive paralysis and are at times taken. And unfortunately, there are a lot of very credible people who have reported being taken. And when they get taken, they go up. And that's a real shitty thing to accept as fact, right? But as far as the Sasquatch go, I'm sure if you've been here any length of time, you've heard me say it before. Try to go into the woods where you want to go. Baby steps. Baby steps. Take a friend. Always take a canine unless you're hunting big game and you don't want a canine with you, but go with your instincts, all right? Go with your instincts. You already know what's right and wrong. You just have to connect with yourself again. We've been conditioned to not be connected with ourselves. Connect with yourself, learn your intuition, get in tune, and you will know the answers of when you should or shouldn't go somewhere. I know that for a fact. But anyway, I'm sure you can hear that dog lapping the water in the background. There's always a background sound wherever I go. That should suffice for today. Hope you enjoyed the sights, and I might do this again tomorrow. Good luck out there, everybody. Keep emailing in information.